The members of the BAC candidates at your access for questioning are 3. Candidate number 1, not in any particular order, is 1 James Agri Mwamu. This is alumni of Nairobi University, having studied in Obi from 1988 to 1991 and joined the KSL in the year 1992, and then thereafter admitted to the bar in 1994, January 20th. He began practicing under the firm of Ocheng Gada in Kakamega 1994. Thereafter he joined the firm of Obija and Company Advocates in Westbury here 1994. In 1997 he became a sole proprietor of One Company Advocates, where he practices to date in Kisumu and Nairobi offices. He is a holder of masters in intellectual property and information technology. He is also a man of family with, I believe, 1 wife by the name Catherine Mwamu, blessed with 2 children, that is Hagin James Jr. and Nozi Mwamu. Ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together to welcome our first candidate, Bwana James Mwamu. Tafadhali karibu.
A round of applause for Mwamu, please. The second candidate I will introduce to you is Allen Omai Gishui. Allen is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, having practiced for 21 years. His area of specialty is in commercial litigation and has been ranked in Band 2 by the Chambers Global in 2015. He is a former member of the LSK Council, a convener of litigation committee or LSK, a founder and active member of both the Court of Appeal and High Court Commercial and Tax Division bar bench committees, and Environment and Land Court and Industrial Court bar bench committees. He is a chartered arbitrator, having trained with the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. He is a board member of the Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. He is a member of he was a former member of the legal subcommittee of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. He was gazetted as a trustee of Nairobi Center for International Arbitration. As of 2015, he has published a book on litigation. He has actively engaged LSK on topical issues, has suggested reforms to LSK draft regulations. He did the Malindi case, the famous Malindi case pro bono, has trained lawyers and magistrates. And a brief background of his personal life. Allen Omai Gishu, he went to Kerugoya Primary School, later to join Nyeri High School, and to become an advocate. He practices under the name and style of Omai and Allen Advocate. He has practiced before with Hamilton, Harrison and Matthews and Walker Contos before moving to establish his own sole proprietorship, which is under the name Omai and Allen. Most importantly, he is a husband of but 1 wife, having been blessed with 2 kids. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Mr. Allen Omai Gishu, who is going to be our second candidate.
Once more, a round of applause for Allen Gishu. As the 2 stand there, you will be reminded that James Agri-Mwamu has once been our topmost leader in the East African Law Society, and He has served in various committees in the National Council Law Society. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now welcome our next candidate, who is Nelson Harvey Andai, having gone to school in Nangili Primary School, just around and near the North Rift neighborhood, and thereafter he joined Musingu High School, where he completed his 4th form and went to University of Nairobi in 1997 to 2001, when thereafter he pursued an LLM in University of Nairobi, which I think he's still on with it. Harvey is a man of family, a family man, married to one wife by the name Felicine Harvey. You will note that Harvey has all the English names. He is blessed. I think he is the senior most in terms of number of children here. The two candidates have 2 and he has 3 children. Give him some round of applause for that. And that is what Luya men are known for. Now, we know that Harvey Nelson has been very active in public litigation and very active in the reforms of both the judiciary and the bar, and we all join hands in welcoming Nelson Harvey Andai. Tafadhali karibu. Karibuni gentlemen. We have laid down a few rules, and timing is of essence. We will not in any particular order be asking questions to you or asking you questions. We will first of all ask you to introduce yourself to the members and give a brief history or CV about yourself before we move to the questions. This time round, I want to begin with Harvey. Harvey, karibu.
My name is Nelson Harvey. Harvey is not an English name. I do not know why Msundi wants to disenfranchise me. Harvey is a Maragoli name. And for the record, I have many wives. One of whom is also here. Now, I was born in 1977 in Kakamega district. I went to school in Nangili Primary from 1984 to 1992. Thereafter, I went to Musingu High School from 1992 to 1995. I scored a claim A and joined the University of Nairobi, where I graduated in 2001. I was admitted to the bar on the 12th of June 2003. I've had an illustrious career as a litigator with a profound impact in the practice of law, both in private and public practice. At the moment, I'm studying for an LLM at the University of Nairobi, and I'm an active participant in the affairs of the lawyers and of the entire nation.
Thank you, Brother Harvey. Alan Gishui.
Thank you. Let me start. When I was admitted in 1997, I loved litigation, and from that point, I made sure that the minute I became a member of the first bar bench that established in Career House, I became an active participant. Since then, I have moved with times and established with colleagues the first bar bench committee of the Court of Appeal, Commercial Court Division, and as we had other divisions, bar bench divisions. Now, what I believe in is that practice is something that we need to enhance. Training over 10,000 lawyers and students from 2005 to date through various CPDs and lectures in the School of Law. Because I think interaction means we can now improve our practice and make it more efficient. In the last 2 years, I did have the privilege of giving out CPDs, but then I published a book on litigation, which practically sets out the problems that we face and the solutions to that. I also had the privilege of being invited by the JTI and also the State Law Office to train on various topical issues pertaining to taxation, abuse of costs, land matters, and problems that DR space. So to me, I live for practice, and I love it. And that's why I believe that being the leader of the Law Society means getting back to our roots, improving our practice and bringing bread and butter issues to the fore. And that is why I believe that if we get together, if we identify those problems, we will not be bedeviled by the politics of pettiness that we have suffered for the last 2 years. The problem with our society has been we've become politicized, and I want us to change that. I want us to focus on what Section 4 means about the society. We must go back to the basic roots of why we are lawyers. And that is why I took up that pro bono brief with the Maldives Law Society, which devastated and killed practice. We lost hundreds of millions of shillings in fees when our practice died. That's just an example of what I believe in. I believe in the rule of law, I believe in legislative reform, and I think the society should take a better role and an in-depth role in socio-economic rights for the country. For example, I personally petitioned Parliament to come up with a product to fight corruption. This week I petitioned Parliament in my own individual capacity to have curriculum across the board. Right now, Kenyans are suffering from shadows. But now imagine if we as a law society unite together and bring about reform. We can't let, for example, all those draconian laws stay in focus. So under my leadership, we will steer the society to the premier bar in Africa, not just East Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Agri, James.
Good evening. First of all, let me apologize that I'm not in a black tie. I came from Nairobi. I thought that Anamasa was going to prepare me one and say he forgot he's in the house. James Agri Mwamu is my name. I am an advocate in the High Court of Kenya. I think most of the things about me have been said about my dear wife. I started my Law Society career as a chapter chairman. After that, I became the chairman of West Kenya Law Society. Then I became a council member of the Law Society of Kenya. After that, I became the Deputy Secretary General of the East African Law Society. Then I became the Secretary General of East African Law Society, Vice President of East African Law Society, eventually becoming the President. In the Law Society, I rose up to the position of Vice Chair. So those people who are saying that Mr. Mugabe has stayed in the presidency, I have not been president of the Law Society. So this is, if I am elected, this is going to be my first time in the president of the Law Society. But during that particular period, when I was both the chapter chairman and the branch chairman of West Kenya Law Society, I set up a benevolent fund. People who come from branches know how sometimes we struggle to take care of our members who are either bereaved or having sickness or things like that. So that's the first thing that I did. When I was a council member, the first strategic plan, both for the East African Law Society and the Law Society of Kenya, we are the ones who started that strategic plan. I was also an editor of The Advocate for about 5 years of the Law Society of Kenya, edited the newsletter. I also drafted as a council member, I also drafted the advertising and marketing rules. I drafted the code of conduct, electoral code of conduct, the one is being used now. I also drafted the board charter for the guidance of council. When I was at the East African Law Society, I came up with a new memorandum of articles of association. I also came up with a litigation team of 6 lawyers. I know that is Mariam Beneka is now chairing that team. I am the one who came up with it. I also came up with the cross-border memorandum, the one which is now lying at Yala Parliament. I have done a lot to improve the society, both internally, because I believe that society succeeds when you have good governance, when you have transparency, when you have accountability, when you realize that as a leader you are just but a steward. That is why I am running for the Law Society of Kenya chairmanship. I also believe that the Law Society under Section 4 need to provide necessary interventions. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, candidates. As you are aware, we have our timekeeper. We'll be very strict on time. I will embark on Harvey. And the first question, remember, you have strictly 1 minute. Members will wish to know, what do you stand for? What is it that you are distinctively bringing on board if you are elected chairperson? Sorry, the president of LSK.
Now, Nelson Harvey stands for a brave new birth, one that will rejuvenate and return the society to the position in which it was before. As we speak right now, we do not have accountability, we do not have integrity, we do not have efficiency at the bar and on the bench. Now, if we have those three pillars, then the advocates will be better placed to serve themselves, earn a living, and do better for the benefit of the client and the entire country as well. And that is the reason as to why I beseech all of you to ensure that you bring back a brave new birth.
Appreciate that, please. Appreciate someone's comment. Next question will go to Alan, and you will be asked by Chalasho.
I want to ask this question with regard to your vision for young lawyers. And I want to go specifically to employment matters. Most of these lawyers, young lawyers, as you know, do not know whether they're employed on permanent contract. They do not even have those contracts. What are you going to do as the president to ensure that the Employment Act is complied with? And also, their welfare in terms of housing, healthcare, SACCO, loans. Most of them are young and they're coming up with families. What are you going to do to secure these issues for them?
Thank you. One of the most basic fundamental rights that we must appreciate is that every young lawyer or any lawyer employed must have a contract of employment. And that contract of employment must define questions of A, medical insurance. It saddens me when I go around, and I went around the country, many lawyers say, we travel around, you don't have medical insurance, you don't have accident cover. And I think those are fundamental rights that must be incorporated in the contract of employment. Two, on the issue of, especially on better conditions in service, especially the young lawyers, it saddens me that once you go on maternity leave, that is a precursor for you to be suddenly dismissed. That cannot happen. And I think the law society must be brave enough to come out with regulations to have basic minimums of what we expect set on the contract of employment to apply to young lawyers. On the issue of even salaries, one, let's appreciate we cannot set a minimum scale for young lawyers because this is a free market economy. But we must at least have that contract that says what you expect and what is the period of notice. Thank you.
Let's appreciate Mr. I have the privilege of asking you, Mr. Mark, a question.
Yes.
What is it that you plan to do with regard to devolving funds to all the LSK represented regions, most particularly the upcountry regions?
I think the branches have suffered too long. My view is that there is a need to set up a devolution fund to be able to empower branches. Branch offices, even here in North Rift, you find that the amount that you're given, which is 1 million, is not sufficient even to employ secretaries and also pay the officers. One of the things that I'm going to do is to set up a devolution fund. Now, this is how a devolution fund will operate. We will set up a special account, and in terms of the Law Society Act, come up with a directorate and a person in charge, specifically in charge of branches and branch welfare. We are going to keep aside money and we're going to raise money. I have had an experience at the law school when we came up with the endowment fund, which we used to help people who are underprivileged, people who do not come from good homes. So we are going to set up a devolution fund, and I believe that a branch like North Rift should not benefit at least a minimum of 5 million in order to be able to run its own activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mamu. I will get back to you, Alan Ishui. To the best of the members' understanding, you have not been so much an appearance in terms of being common around the upcountry membership. Do you consider yourself more of a Nairobi person and Mombasa than upcountry concerns? I believe members will confirm with me that your appearance here may be most probably one of the most minimal as compared to the rest of the candidates. What do you have in store for the upcountry members vis-a-vis the principle and the manifesto of devolution?
I think that's a popular misconception. When you look at what I've done for practice in terms of practice directions, in terms of ideas of how we can reform, that is not just for Nairobi, that is for the entire country. For example, when we drafted the practice directions for the Court of Appeal, it benefited everyone, and that is something I'm proud of. On the issue of devolution, last in July, I recommended to my branch that the devolution fund should be fed by the 4,000 shillings we pay to the ELS. Because it's a crime that this year they expect us to pay 36 million, and yet the branches only get 1 million apiece. And I propose that a motion should be tabled. We should go to court, stop the Law Society from paying the 36 million, and that 36 million, members will decide, should go to the branches. And that way we can benefit. So that's what I'm saying, it's a popular misconception. When we come up with ideas, it is for the good of everyone. And especially on practice. I think practice can be improved if we engage the judiciary on improving practice. So, thank you.
I'm going to ask you, Harvey, this. You have been very active on social media and championing for your cause as well as other causes. And just today, you have tweeted, and I will quote, "I hereby direct all soldiers of NRM to proceed with haste in large formations to Kitunguri and Kiambu police stations or any other station where he is being held unlawfully and release General Miguna forthwith. Hashtag Miguna freed." My question is this. I want to just ask one. Were you championing for release of Miguna as an advocate or as a member of NRM? Because we expected to be marshaled as lawyers to go and release Miguna. Two, what is your take on the partiality or otherwise of the LSK in this context? Are you going to be the president that is going to be pro-government, against government, or an impartial LSK?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is not the first time I'm acting for Miguna. I've acted for Miguna before. Now, yesterday, the police seized TJ Kajwang, who was also a lawyer. We were able to go to Ngong and get him arrested. No sooner had we procured the release of TJ Kajwang than Miguna was also arrested. In the morning, we went to court and obtained a court order. Now, that court order was served upon the police, but they did not release Miguna. Instead, they mobilized Mungiki to surround Githunguri police station so that Miguna and another lawyer, Sifuna, could not get exit out of the police station. And it is for that reason, and I will stand for any advocate, be it an advocate in NASA, be it an advocate in Jubilee, be it a Kikuyu, be it a Luo, a Kalenjin, or a lawyer. Because when the despots decide to take action against advocates, they will not discriminate. When they came for Willie Kimani, they didn't care who Willie Kimani is. And it's for that reason that I directed people to go and free Miguna. And I have no apologies for it. If they arrest you, we have a court order, they don't comply, we'll go and have you released.
Thank you very much, Harvey. I will again skip to James Agri Mwame. On matters of leadership, Mr. Mwame, we have known you to have held the highest office in East African Law Society. And here you are, contesting as the President of Law Society Kenya. It may be a proper text for me to say that once the term expires for my Governor Mandago, he will only seek to be a CS in the national office in the government. Don't you think you are playing the big fish in the small pond?
Thank you for that question. This is about service. It's not about being a boss or anything. And I'll give you examples. Look at Salim Salim. Salim was the Secretary General of AU. And that now it was OAU that time. But after finishing his term at OAU, he went to become the Prime Minister of the Republic of Tanzania. Boutros Ghali was the UN Secretary General. He left the UN Secretary General after that time and became the Foreign Affairs Minister of Egypt. I will come closer home. Our Auditor General worked with ADB Bank for about 24 years, earning about 5.6 million every month. He decided to take a salary cut to come and serve his country. There is no other thing that one can do to his society than give the service. The experience that I've gained outside there will serve me better. In fact, among the candidates who are standing here, I am the one who has the experience to steer this law society at this particular time.
Mr. Momo, I like the way you have a list of your mentors and what they have done. Now, I wish to ask you this question, Mr. Momo. The law requires that for one to become an advocate, they have to go through at a university, thereafter to Kenya School of Law, after which, upon passing the exams, they become admitted to the bars. It is not lost to all of us how the student in a School of Law, the rate of passing or being qualified to be admitted is wanting at the Kenya School of Law. You have served as a board member of the Kenya School of Law. I want to believe that the people you represented in that board are myself and the rest of the juniors who are here, who went to school during the time you were board member. And therefore, their interest, the interest of those students at Kenya School of Law should be catered for as advocates in waiting. What did you do at the Kenya School of Law as a board member that people will remember you for? That even if one wanted to vote for you today, they would say, I will vote for Mwambo because he did this and this and that. For me at the Kenya School of Law, what impact did you make there?
The first thing that we did, I joined the Kenya School of Law when it was actually getting separated from the Council of Legal Education. And the first thing that we did as board members was to oppose the new act, which has now given the council the powers to set the examination and also regulate the same. This has been the problem where it is. Because you see, the problem is that Kenya School of Law now does not set up the exams. And we had foreseen that this problem was going to happen because you can't be a regulator setting out your own exams and being a supervisor. And we proposed that the dealing with the exams should still remain at the school. But of course, you know, we are small fish in the Attorney General chamber, so we overruled. What I have said and what we did at that particular time was to appeal to the CEO of the CLE that we need to cooperate to deal with this particular thing. Because you find that now there's a system in which the CLE, maybe just 1 minute, there's something they call the remarking and there's a lot of money that CLE takes. The bell ringer even when I was starting us.
Thank you.
But I obey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harvey, you have been very vocal the social media. You even have declared taking sides politically. You want to be the people's who are in the legal professions, president, who have different takes in political opinions. Do you think in your leadership, compared to the leadership that is outgoing, do you think you have anything different to bring in other than what is perceived to be a very sharp drift of the membership based on political opinions?
Now, thank you. In my opinion, I think a good leader is one who is a servant. He must be in a position to do that which the people do. My affiliation to the NASA coalition is one that I have no apologies over, because it is my belief that you're better placed to have a leader whose ideas are known to you than have a leader who is inclined to a particular affiliation but does not disclose that. Now, first and foremost, I'm a lawyer before being taken as an individual who takes a political side. My responsibility as the president of the Law Society will be first and foremost to serve the membership, and I will serve the membership in accordance with the functions and objectives that have been set out in the Act. My political affiliation will not interfere with my service. In fact, I may surprise you, as we speak right now, I act for so many Jubilee elected members of Parliament, so it doesn't interfere with my objectivity.
I want to ask Alan, in the outgoing leadership of LSK, we have seen a situation where the president issues a statement and the vice president issues contradictory statements. What are your plans with regard to bringing unity to the council and incorporating lawyers who are in-house, state council, prosecutors, and now we have so many divisions and categories of lawyers? What are your plans with regard to that?
We have a code of conduct that governs the council, and in that code of conduct, it expresses unity. And if there's division, the president's final stand, based on consultation with the council, is what holds the day. It's unfortunate that what happened in the recent past has defined the current state of the council. But I am a strong believer in consensus. And I believe that if we talk about issues, then the council should abide by it. I was in council for 4 years, and we had our divisions, but we never let any one of us use screenshots and send it out to the public. I will make sure that we will not be a divided council. We will serve for the members as united. On the issue of state councils and DPP and in-house councils, the problem we've had is that the committee for in-house council has been moribund. We need to strengthen it. I am a firm believer that we must bring the state councils back to a fold. I think 4 years ago, the AG actually proposed to pay a minimal amount for state council to be part of the society. We need to explore that. We need to have our brothers back. We need to let them participate in our CPDs, participate in our elections, and then later on, we'll be a stronger society that way. So I believe in cohesiveness, and we need to talk to one another to find the solutions. And I strongly believe that in-house council will be strengthened if we have a strong in-house council committee. And in future, going forward, I think we also need to reform the LSK Act to have a stake for in-house council in council. I think Uganda has something similar. And we should actually look at that reform. And I think probably that could be a question, LSK reform, that I can expound upon. But since the meeting is over, in-house council must be part of council in future. Because there are more than 1,000, it's probably 3,000 at this rate. So that position must be safeguarded in council for them.
Thank you.
Kindly be asking one question. She asked 2 questions. That is why we let the time for you.
Thank you, timekeeper. Thank you. Mr. Hamid, I'll get back to you before Mr. Mom will ask that next question. You have a very heaty issue in court about your candidature and your pre-qualifications. Why did you have this issue coming up now when you're vying? If you really have the interest of all the members, and you say you have been championing for litigations in the interest of membership and even the public, why did you have to raise this issue now when you are vying or when you have a personal interest in the position? Do you think you are a fair person? Do you think you're a fair leader? Do you think thereafter you will be able to champion any other issue in our CAP 16 for the benefit of the members, or this is just merely for yourself?
Now, this is not an issue that is just limited to Harvey, because my litigation is two-pronged. One is to challenge the decision by the Secretariat of the LSK to determine that practice years is quantified on account of physical years instead of the practicing certificates, because that has been the law under the Advocates Act section 24 and the practice. Now, the second limb of my litigation is the one that champions the interest of all young lawyers. It is not selfish on my part to have pursued this course, because I'm pursuing it for the benefit of all the lawyers. We cannot have a law society where 80% of the membership, which is constituted by that bracket that is below 15%, and many of you here are below 15%, electing from a small group, an elitist group, that constitute about 20 to 15%. That is the reason as to why I've come out to challenge this decision.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Mohammed. My question goes with regard to the arbitration center. You are one of the people who supported the idea of coming up with the arbitration center, and the outgoing council actually said they are coming to acquire us from that majorly. What is your position? What is your take on what has happened? Do we still need that arbitration center? What are you going to do about it when you become president? Are we now going back to it? Or what is your take on that issue at the moment?
I think it is correct that I was in council when the idea of arbitration center was mooted. And as a member who plays by collective responsibility, it was incumbent upon me to support that council at that particular time. But they say, Vox Populi, Vox Dei, the voice of the people is the voice of God. Members spoke and said they rejected that arbitration center. And once they rejected it, I accepted that was the members' decision. And I know that the current council promised us to refund our money within 100 days. So when I get into the office, the first thing I'm going to do is to fulfill that promise and refund the money within 100 days. I am not going to revive the arbitration center. But having said that, there's something that members have to deal with. Our secretariat is almost collapsing. That I will leave for the members to decide.
Mr. Allen, may I have the privilege of asking you what you have in store for the young lawyers, not only in North Rift region, but nationwide, that you can only do as president of LSK that you could not do as council member of LSK and all the other positions that you have served in?
One of the things that will affect young lawyers under my presidency is improved practice. The biggest challenge we have is how do you run your law firm? It's actually a problem across the board, not just young lawyers. It has been my dream for years, for the last 2 years actually, that we need to come up with a very well thought out practice manual on how to run your law firm. Canada has it, South Africa has it, England has it. And I want us to use those best practices to have our own homegrown office manual to improve our practice. The other issue is also mentorship. Limbo Polka came up with a very good concept paper on mentorship, on how we experienced lawyers can now mentor young lawyers. And that is something that we need to put into practice. Because there's no greater joy than when you run your law firm efficiently and effectively, that the clients come back to us to do from day one when you start opening your law firm. And that's a big problem. The other thing is also, I would like young lawyers to improve and participate in bar-bench relationships.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's appreciate Mr. Allen, please.
Now, I will have one question, which question shall be asked by all the members, all the candidates, and this question, which all candidates have touched on, is based on the interest of members and the image of the law society countrywide in as far as its role in justice is concerned. We have all seen the overtaking of our actions and our roles by Okia or Mutata. What is it that you have ever done that will be equated to what Okia has done to show that you have championed for the public interest litigation as well as the representation of this membership? I will begin with you, Harvey.
Several. I will enumerate those that will fit within 1 minute. One, I successfully pursued the complaint for removal of Justice Joseph Mutavambalu for corruption in the Milimani Commercial Court. That is number one. Number two, I successfully challenged the decision by retired Chief Justice William Tunga to transfer judges without consulting with the LSK, without consulting with the judges and the magistrate. Number three, I've successfully challenged impunity in the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. Kriega Tobiko has just escaped by resigning, but had he still been in office, would have removed him. Number four, I've defended the rights of advocates as and when they are arrested, as and when they are being harassed by the state. Number five, I've defended the rights of the media to speak and disseminate information freely, because it is my understanding that publicity is the hallmark of fidelity. If what we do here as lawyers is not publicized, then we will not be in a position to mentor any of these many young advocates who stand for age limit must fall.
Thank you, Mr. Momo.
First, I have represented the Law Society in many public interest cases. The first one was Anglo-Leasing. The second one was when the East African presidents amended the treaty, Section 30, introducing the 6-month limitation. I and Eric Mutua represented the Law Society of Kenya at the East African Court of Justice. We also set up the East African Law Society litigation team that filed a case against the government of Burundi, the government of Uganda, and the government of Kenya in various areas, including walk to work and the government of Uganda. I think some of those cases have been concluded, others are still going on. At the Law Society of Kenya, we also set up a public interest litigation strategy. I don't know what has happened to the current council, but I remember that when we were in the council, Gertrude Dangote and Wamasa were our leaders in the public interest litigation. I believe that when I become president, Okia Mutata is going to be a thing of, a matter of history. I mean, his actions are going to be a matter of history.
Okay, quickly. The first case I'm proud of is the case of Kigode that I took to the Court of Appeal, where advocates would be condemned to pay costs personally if you were instructed by a company and there's no resolution. Court of Appeal set that aside and agreed with me that you cannot condemn an advocate to pay costs personally on that issue. The other issue, of course, is the Valida Law Society, which affected both the countrywide. I don't have to go into detail on that issue. It's in the Supreme Court, and I'm very confident we shall succeed there. 2014, 100 students were chased away from the School of Law. I took it pro bono, fought for them, and some of you may actually be beneficiaries of that suit. I got them back to the School of Law. On the issue of speed, we all know what happened. From 1975, Kenyans were exposed to illegal fines of tens of thousands of shillings. I fought that. Kenyans benefited, and to tell the truth, the fine was actually 500 bob. But all those years, the government collected illegal fines of billions of shillings. Supreme Court have been there twice on public interest. The issue of right versus right. I fought in the CJ agreed with me that if a judge is moved through the vetting process, then you file a constitutional petition to nullify that judgment. I have actually done that, and there's one petition pending. And then also the NLC. I participated on behalf of the LSK on the issue of private land versus big public land.
Thank you.
Thank you. One last question in this category. You have given us your promises. You have given us your manifestos. You have told us what you will do in the various months that you would be, should you claim this position. How do we hold you accountable? Do we have to wait for the end of your term to say, Alan did this, Alan will do this, one will say he did not do? What assurance are you giving us that we can use to hold you accountable before the end of your term?
I think for me, when I was the chair of West Kenya, I performed, and my record is there. When I was a council member of the Law Society of Kenya, I increased the devolution fund from 50 to 500 to 650 before I left council. So that is another point. When I left the East African Law Society, I was voted the best president East Africa has had for the last 20 years and given the best presidential award. So for performance and delivery. So those are things that are there for people to see. And I do not just promise, I will deliver. When we promised members that we are going to return the judicial review that was taken to Nairobi by Justice Gicheru, we acted, we went to the streets, we filed the cases, we were represented by the current judge, Justice Odunga, and we brought judicial review back to the branches. I think Gumbo is the only person, and Tom Mutei, who are old enough to have remembered what we did. And yes, of course, the moderator can remember what we did. So we have a record, and we have a record you can speak about and you can touch on.
Now, the question you've asked is very appropriate. How will you hold me accountable? I think it's in the part of public notoriety that everything that Harvey does is in the open. No wonder you're able to see what I've done today on Twitter, on Facebook. In the morning, I attended the admission of 139 advocates. I think everybody saw that. I paid for about 6 of them for their PCs. Thereafter, I went to get out Meguna. Everybody saw that. Now, the biggest problem we've had in the council is because they do their things in secrecy. I will ensure that members are able to participate in the affairs of the council real time. I will broadcast the minutes, I will broadcast the meetings and the affairs of the council so that you're able to know who amongst the people you've elected that are working with me together with myself is advancing your interests, so that you are able to respond and deal with any issues that require urgent attention. There will be no secrets. You will not have a situation whereby I'm saying this as president and my vice president there, Joe, is contradicting it. It will not happen. You will see it real time.
Thank you very much. Alan?
Well, for me, I get impatient about delays of performance. A good example is when I drafted the team of 2, the court mandated mediation, in 2005. When I joined council, I beseeched the CJ, please pass court mandated mediation. Now we're practicing it. One novel thing that I believe in to be held accountable is that the council must meet with all branch chairs on a quarterly basis. And in the intervening period between the quarterly session, we will now work on clear-cut goals on improving practice and welfare. That way you can hold us to account, including your branch chairs, on where we have performed, where we have failed. This is something new, something I've suggested to be put in the draft regulations of the LSK, and I strongly believe that it will work. I always set my goals and I achieve them. Court of Appeal practice directions took 2 years until I insisted and said, can we have a deadline? When the CJ, President of the Court of Appeal said, do it in 1 month, we did it in 3 weeks. So when I talk about practice manuals, believe in me, 6 months, you will have it.
Thank you very much. Round of applause for our candidates. Now, the next session, just before I ask one more question, I realize I left out. We are going to engage the members, and we only have a maximum of 2 questions per candidate. We will take the first round of questions per candidate. So the first priority will be given to the first come, first serve. As my co-moderator Chalasho moves around to give the microphone to the members to engage the participants, I will give you each a minute to tell this gathering, the members of North Rift Law Society, together with the Young Lawyers Caucus in North Rift. As a capital state, we are keen on our personal interests first. What is it that you have to convince the North Rift LSK to vote for you, if any case, as a block? I'll begin with you, Harvey. What do you have in store for us as North Rift LSK?
You know, lawyers were saying, "Shenyu ni shenyu." Yours is yours. I was just born across here in Angili. I always practice here in the High Court. I know all the problems that you face here. There are many cases that are not progressing because judges are not posted here in good time. And when they are posted, they're not given sufficient time to clear the backlog. I will ensure, because I have personal rapport with the Chief Justice, I have personal rapport with the presiding judge of the High Court. I will personally go to the offices and ensure that things are working here. Because if it works for me here at home, it will have worked for us all over nationally.
Thank you, Alan.
Well, I've had a very excellent rapport with judiciary for the last 20 years. And one of the things that I pride myself in is thinking outside the box. Thinking of every time of how do we improve practice in courts. And that track record of mine speaks for itself. You look at my CV, you'll find that over the years, I have lived to the spirit of what I believe in. And for you to have your practice improved in both conveyancing and both litigation, I don't think any other candidate has that track record of reform that I have. And I will ensure it only gets better with time if you put me there.
Thank you, Alan. Timekeeper, kindly give Alan 30 more seconds. Alan, I want you to tell us what you have for North Rift LSK members. Have you studied their problems? Do you know what they want?
One of the biggest problems we have in litigation is the backlog of cases, the lack of even magistrates to deal with employment matters. We only have one judge in Kericho dealing with all employment matters covering Eldoret. I have personally asked the Deputy Chief Justice last week and also Martin Deche, please move to improve to gazette magistrates who can now deal with employment matters countrywide. We have already got the success of having magistrates dealing with land matters who are gazetted. That I can promise you that we will make that happen and bring justice to Mashinani.
Thank you. Mwamu, do you have our problems at heart?
I do. In fact, if Nelson Davi says I should be called Kirigit, the homemade bull. Because when you have a bull, you can use it for anything. You can use it to plow, you can use it to do anything. And that's what I've been doing for North Rift. When you have problems, you bring them on the homemade bull and it sorts them out. So that is the reason why I have the problems of the North Rift at heart. So if Nelson Happy is the delay, I am with Kirigit, I am the whole homemade bull.
Thank you very much, our candidates. Now to the general members, and I will invite Sharon perhaps to give us a few ground rules before we begin.
Thank you. I should probably face you now. This time is for you to ask questions. We are limited to 5 questions only. First come, first serve. Kindly keep your questions respectful. If you have any personal issues with any candidate, sort them out after we are done with this. The reason as to why we were not doing a follow-up on the answers they were giving was because we wanted to give you a chance to ask the questions that we perhaps should have followed up on after they gave their answers. Over to you.
So we are going to identify the 5 people who will ask the question before I start giving the first one microphone. Wacha nisimame hapa ndio nione mkono vizuri. Okay, those are, I'll start from behind. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Na ile moja imekuwa 6. Hapo nimefunga hiyo story. Si ndivyo? I start from this end.
Question. The purposes of my questions, the question I'm assuming that the people is president. Okay? And right now, the media are not airing anything because of the executive order. Assuming that as the chair, you issue a statement stating that what the government is doing is wrong. And then 30 minutes later, Udibo issues another statement stating that the government what it's doing is okay. As the LSK chair, what will you do about
They will note the questions, then they will answer. Hiyo mkono sikuona saidi. We will do another round.
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, my name is George Arus. I work for Nandi County Government as the county attorney. And we have, I'm not sure if you guys are aware, that we have so many lawyers working for counties, working for county government. On average, about 6 lawyers in every county, times 47, you can do the math. And they have many challenges. They don't know where they fall. Are they state council, like lawyers who work for the Attorney General, DPP, they have their lawyers, and those lawyers are paid non-practice allowance, but lawyers in counties are not. And I want, because one of you will be president, I want you to promise us today that you will look into the issues affecting lawyers in county governments. Also, on the same note, devolution is a very important thing in this country. And sometimes counties go for months without receiving any money from the national treasury. And I don't know if, as president, you think you can do anything for counties so that counties can run effectively and efficiently. Finally, I want you guys to promise us today, as lawyers, that we will be different in this term, the next 2 years. Because personally, I've been very disappointed in LSK for the last 2 years, taking partisan positions in national politics. Sometimes it goes to maybe even tribal, and it is so shameful that we cannot rise above the bar as lawyers in this country.
Okay, tuelewane. Ukiuliza swali ni swali moja. Si ndio? Swali moja. Usiweke maswali 6 in one question.
Thank you. I am Ingati Elina Luso. My question goes to all the presidential candidates. I am a young advocate and I am a young mother. I would like to know what plans the 3 of you have, or in the event whoever will make it to president, what plans do you have for young female advocates who are yet to start their families, and we get pregnant and we want to have families, but these things affect our work. We are dismissed, salaries are reduced, or some other ridiculous things happen. I would like to hear what plans you have for us. Thank you.
I would like to know the take that Mr. Mwam and Mr. Allen have. Oh, my name is Susan Hadambi. My question is, what's the take of Mr. Mwam and Mr. Allen about the age limit issue that Mr. Harvey is facing?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Karen Tasso. First, I would wish to congratulate the speakers on their impressive address tonight. My question is to all the candidates. Mr. Allen talked about bare minimums on what he believes ought to be constituted in the contracts for young advocates. However, what are the specific steps you will take, either of the candidates will take, when he becomes chairman of the LSK to ensure that comes into fruition? Thank you.
That will be all for the first round. I will return it to my senior, Mr. Kundi, to give the order in which the responses will be given.
Yes, we'll begin with the first question, which was based on issuance of conflicting statements by either membership of the council or that of the president and the vice president. I think it all boils down to the coordination and the unity and speaking in one voice. What do you have in regards to that? I would want Mr. Mwamu to begin with this, noting that Mr. Mwamu, when I asked a question about Okia Omtata, I asked based on your personal and personal individual capacity, as well as your capacity as one of the vocal leaders of the LSK, not necessarily in the position of counsel. I noted that the other day you made a video communication statement with regards to the press shutdown. Don't you think that does not even equate you to Omutata? WhatsApp video communication condemning the executive vis-a-vis Omutata's move to the court. Kindly give us an answer about the press statement, issuance of press statement, and unity together with one voice.
The first thing I think that anybody who has served in council must understand or knows is that the president is the spokesperson of the Law Society of Kenya. We start from that particular basic minimum level. He's the spokesperson of the Law Society of Kenya. And there are many times when the president sometimes, even when I was in council, says something that we don't agree with, but we do not go to the press and say that I don't agree. We have emails, we have WhatsApps. So this is internal communication. So what I will do, and this is something I used to experience, sometimes the first thing that we used to do is to draft a statement, send it all around to all council members, sometimes in Rwanda, in Burundi, and everywhere. They will look at that statement, they will make their comments. But the final responsibility of issuing the statement is with me. So that at the end of the day, we have to coordinate and agree. But if my vice chair does that, I will also not rebuke her in public. We will call for a council meeting. That council meeting will discuss her conduct, and I'm sure that will not be repeated. But because you see, when you have a vice president speaking and president speaking, it does not just split the council. It split the society right in the middle. So, and it is about the issue of governance that I talked about. Give me 1 minute, I talk about the issue of Omutata. You know, Omutata has become famous because of the cases that he files. And the cases that he's filing are the cases that are at the heart of the citizens of the Republic. We are going to take these cases when we have a public interest litigation unit. Because cases like the media blackout, the Law Society, Council of the Law Society should have gone to court as early as yesterday to deal with that particular issue. And that is what I'm going to do.
Thank you, Alan. Same question.
I agree with Momo on that issue, that the president is a spokesperson. And in fact, going by the experience that we had when we were in council, even if we have differences, no one would countermand the president. But if we have that unfortunate situation that happens, as what happened before, we will have an internal dispute resolution mechanism and sit down with that particular member, in this case the VP, and find out what is the root problem, why has it happened. This society is a professional body. We should not be guided by partisan politics. This law society must remain apolitical. Otherwise, we'll be acting outside Section 4. If that issue is then repeated, in the Code of Conduct, there's a regulation for even a recall of a member. If you know in the Act itself, we have to then consider setting into motion a mechanism of a repeat serial defaulter for recalling that. And it's set out there very clearly. You'll be given your rules of natural justice. Don't reform is second to the members to decide on an SGM whether that person should be recalled for bringing the society into disrepute. Because it's really set out in statute. And that's what the guidance will go for. But we must, first of all, sit down, talk to one another. You repeat it again, we take it back to the members to decide, should this person be fit to serve in council?
Mr. Harvey?
I always believe that family is the foundation of good leadership. In my home, my wife is a lawyer. She was very prominent when we were at the university. She was very vocal as a feminist. But often, when we make a decision, it is her decision after we've discussed. I've known Joy for a long period of time because she was only 1 class ahead of me. And verily, I believe she will be my vice president. There will be no contradictory statements being given by Joy and myself, because this is what we'll do. We will always consult in the open so that all members of the council, including the vice president and myself, voice their concern before a decision is made. It will not happen. We'll be a united society.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. On that note, Mr. Harvey, kindly address the issue of what you have in store for the female lawyers who have challenges in issues of motherhood and maternity leave. As you said, your wife was very vocal, but she's no longer vocal. Perhaps you silenced her. Do you intend to silence the female advocate as well?
Now, Aluso, you should not feel shy about getting pregnant. In fact, get pregnant more often. And not just Aluso, but all of you here. Because we are the ones who make you pregnant. So why should we discriminate against you when you get pregnant? And you see, there are certain responsibilities that you may not be able to perform when you are expectant. In fact, in my firm, which is a purely litigation firm, I will propose that even as you take the pre and postnatal leave, you're able to perform lighter duties. For instance, you can do the drafting within the office, and then the other lawyers can do the work that's supposed to be done in court. And I will try and do this by example, by doing it in my firm, and therefore encourage the other senior members who are employers. And even you, now you are employees. When you become an employer, please treat your employees the way you will have expected to be treated as an employee. That is the best way to progress this thing.
Alan, do you have any plans, particularly based on that issue?
I think the Employment Act covers that. The problem that comes in is that we as employers, advocates, and some of the meanest employers. That's a fact. That's right. And I think we need to change that. In my firm, when any of my colleagues goes on maternity, she gets a full 4 months. 4 months. And we're happy for her. We visit her, we buy her gifts, and she comes back rejuvenated. And I think we need to actually now go ahead, even in our regulations, and have bare minimums of what we expect an employer to put in place for an associate or a young lady advocate who gets pregnant. I think it's against the human rights for us to mistreat her on, yet clients come over and we defend them in employment court. What's wrong with us, honestly? And I think we should have a committee come up with those guidelines, including young lawyers, and tell us, give us a wish list, which we will legislate in regulations, because the regulations will cover that. If someone falls foul of that law, yes, we've got the employment court to deal with that, but surely isn't that a matter of ethics? Isn't it immoral for an employer to consider you like a second-class citizen? I think we should legislate on that issue, and we should have regulations on that. And that's what I push for. I'll get a committee, come up with those amendments, and that's what I say, we need to refine the LSK regulations. And this is some of the ideas we need to put in, so that in future you employ a young lady, bear in mind that she's a human being who deserves respect.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mamu, this is a very sensitive issue. We cannot call associates who work in our law firms employees. We call them associates. How practical is this issue in terms of enforcement? Let's be honest.
I think that, by the way, this complaint is not just in Kenya, but in Uganda. I remember when I was talking to a lady lawyer who had gone on maternity leave. When she came back, she was told that there is no employment for her because the company is about making profits, and that time when she was not there, that time was lost. And I think that it is not just an issue of a legal issue. This is now even in the UN Covenant on Civil Rights about mothers. And some of these things that we are now putting in our laws, they are actually universal accepted standards. I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to tell our advocates that this is what the law says, and they need to obey the law. I know that our associates have suffered, and not just the issue of mothers, but even the young men. You know, you remember the Akundi, Cyprian Luis Nyakundi. Should also be given 10 days to go and relax when their wives conceive. So even as the women are conceiving, I'll give back. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mwamu. Kindly address the issue that was raised about county lawyers, keeping in mind that you had also addressed the issue of the state councils. Does it go hand in hand? How do you intend to statutorily enforce that or assist them in that area?
I think it goes hand in hand. In fact, I think it is not the first person who has raised it. I know there's a lawyer of Bomet, in Bomet legal counsel, who has raised this with me in my inbox. What we are going to do about the non-practicing allowance and their status. And I think this is a very important thing, because the county governments and the county assembly have employed many lawyers. If you look at the Law Society Act, Section 4, it talks about looking after the welfare of the members of the Law Society. These are people who pay practice certificate to us. And it is therefore incumbent upon us to be able, and we can negotiate with counties, because counties are governments. If the state councils are enjoying non-practicing allowance, there is no reason why we should have the people who are working within the counties not dealing with that. And the other thing is, in Uganda, for example, I remember my friend Barishaki, now he's the Court of Appeal judge. He was a state council, but he used to also sit at the Law Society of Uganda, because the Ugandan Act is such that if you are a state council, you are allowed to be as a lawyer. So that is something that we need to engage the Attorney General's office and the Solicitor General's office and amend the law to ensure that the state councils, the people who work in the county, also enjoy the same privileges as advocates of practice.
Thank you, James Agimamu. Mr. Allen, on the same point, keeping in mind that there was a second question on that question as to whether you have a role or you will have a role to play in terms of empowering devolution government the legal departments.
Thank you. As you heard, one of the novel things that I wanted to introduce is that the council must meet with the branch chairs who are in touch with matters within their sphere. And my actually first course of business, if I'm elected as the president, is to start working the following week, even before assuming office. Why? Get the branch chairs to now set out all the problems that they face and the solutions that we can come up with, so that when we have the first council retreat with all the branch chairs, we already have the issues at hand and how we can resolve them. As I told you, I don't believe in waiting for months at an end to achieve certain goals. Work starts the minute victory is at hand, and see how we can engage the Council of Governors to, one, improve the terms of service for our colleagues there. Two, improve employment opportunities, especially for young advocates. The 30% that goes to the youth, how can we get legal services devolved to the young advocates? And those are the things that we have to look at. And those are the pragmatic things we should engage with. Also, what role do we have as lawyers in the county government? They pass bad laws. Why are they passing bad laws when we should be there policing that? And we should engage them actively in that. And that's why I believe our society, our solution, will transform devolution in this country.
Thank you very much. Javi, what's your take?
Now, George Taruza, there are about 300 of you in the county governments. But I will not speak as they have spoken. May I put blame on your behalf, on your part. And this is the reason why. The county governments have a lot of employment opportunities for young lawyers. Many of you working there as county attorneys or legal officers do not give work to these young lawyers. Now you come here complaining, yet you give work to Paul Mwite, you give work to Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi, you give work to all those big boys, and you pay them 20 million. I know this for a fact. Give these people work. You understand? Distribute work. The work that entails a subject matter of about 10 million should not be given to those senior lawyers. Give it to our colleagues. We'll be able to deal with it. We'll be able to give you effective service, and you will also prosper. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. That's how it shall be. And we will ensure, because under Section 4, we have the responsibility as the Law Society to ensure that work is equally distributed amongst the junior and the senior lawyers. That one we must do. We will have no apologies for that. So be sure we'll come for you.
Thank you very much. I think I have dealt with all questions answered. I think, Madam Chesto, your question has been answered in one way or the other, I believe, on the issue of minimum earnings. All right, we will age limit, correct? Thank you. Agree?
age limit is in court and is coming for ruling on Monday. And
sorry, just hold on. I'm sorry, I didn't know that's what you wanted to tackle. We have a reservation for that. We will come to that. We are coming to that. Not now, not yet. I was just asking Jeso whether your question has been answered. Jeso, maybe you can rephrase it kindly.
What exactly will the candidates do? What will they exactly do to ensure that contracts are implemented, or to ensure that advocates, when they absorb their advocates in the senior, their contracts which are being signed, what will you do?
It's the same point I said about whether associates are considered employees, whether they are bound by Employment Act or they are not. How do you enforce one's employment vis-a-vis the issues they face, including maternity? 30 seconds.
Okay. I think that this is something that requires political will, both of the leaders and the members of the Law Society. I am saying this from experience. When I was the vice chair, we actually circulated this among the lawyers. And we met great opposition from the lawyers and saying, look, these are issues that are negotiated. But I agree that time has come for us to insist that this must be the way to go. Because that is what, we go to court and defend people's contracts. There's no reason why we should also that should not apply to us.
Thank you. And now, members, we have come to the end of our questioning to our candidates. But now I wish to have them engage each other.
Your question?
Okay. Did you for that, Alan?
Age limit or?
Yes.
Or about the contracts?
The contracts, yes.
Well, the contracts that I even answered earlier, we need to regulate that. And we need to regulate and include this aspect of every advocate must have a contract. You must also provide that NSSF, NHIF must be paid for your colleague, for your employee, your associate. You must also provide for medical insurance as a basic minimum. And you must also pay for that employee's practicing certificate. I cannot believe that in other funds, you've employed an associate and yet you demand that that associate also pays for the practicing certificate. It doesn't make sense. So those are the things that we should legislate as basic minimums, so that if you fall foul of that, then there's recourse in regulations of what happens to you. Right now, you don't even pay taxes because you're paid under the table. You have to account for every pin if you have an employee. Let's be honest to each other. You expect us to follow the law, let's live by the law.
Thank you. Have you something on that? No, you don't.
Minimum wage.
Yes.
No, this one I've done by example. In the last 1 year, I've paid for almost 30 lawyers for their practice certificate. Those within my firm, and that's outside. And I will always say, treat somebody who succeeds you in the manner in which you have wanted to be treated at that particular point in time. Empower the associate, empower the employee. You will leave a legacy.
Okay. Now, we were coming to the candidates asking each other questions or engaging each other. We will question each, one question each. And then the second question that you will ask your competitor is based on what I'm going to say next. We know that James Agri Momo, you have been to the society before. We know that you have been an LSK president before. What do you have to say about that? Alan, Harvey, what do you have to say about that? Alan, we are aware that Harvey has a case in court, and that's what members are concerned. What's your comment on that? What's your take on it? Agree, what's your take on it? We are aware that Alan has contested, has vied for this position before, and he has lost. Do you think you have a question for him over what he has as fresh blood in this new term? I will toss it over to my colleague to take over this session.
So I begin with Habu. You give us one question for and one question for Mom.
Now, I will pose the same question to both of them. When Parliament increased the age limit from 7 to 15 years. Both of you were in council. The unanimous view of the membership was that there should be one tire qualification for one to run for president, and that was 10 years. Why did you pursue this thing? That is number one. And number two, specific to Mwamu.
No, we asked one question.
Okay, good, thanks.
Alan, one question for Harvey, one question for Mom.
Thank you. Harvey, you are the only candidate without a manifesto. Your manifesto is section 4. So, what is your vision for the society after age limit must fall without having a specific manifesto on how you will implement the aspirations of a leader of the law society? Because simply saying section 4 will guide you is not sufficient. And to my brother Mwamu, we both contested for the presidency and lost last time. I was an active shadow president for the LSK for the last 2 years, and you have seen my work. I participated in every AGM, in every annual conference. Why did you decide to take a sabbatical leave from active participation in LSK affairs, including the AGM, the annual conference, even leaving your Kisumu WhatsApp group? Was defeat that bitter to swallow, that you only resurfaced simply to seek elections again?
Thank you. Mr. Mwamu, one question for Harvey, one question for Alan.
Nelson Harvey, Nelson, are you running for the president of the Law Society of Kenya or for the country? I have seen that you have a big billboard on top of Kenyatta Market, another one in Kisumu and another one in Kakamega. And secondly, you are putting your papers for... Oh, I thought it is just extended.
One question per candidate. Your question now
yes.
for Alan.
Yes, for Alan Gichui. Alan, don't you agree with me that during the time when we were in council, we did about 5 press conferences? On these press conferences touching on the public interest issues, you always had either an arbitration in the afternoon or a case in court. You never attended any of these press conferences because you did not want to criticize the government.
Okay. I don't know if that is the question. You must have gotten it. Now we begin answering from where we began asking.
Now, there are only 3 presidents recognized by law, and they are by no means any less than each other. The first one is the President of the Republic of Kenya. The second one is the President of the Supreme Court. The third one is the President of the Law Society. Is the President of the nation. It's a big responsibility. And if you have a president who does not have the capacity of putting a billboard, who does not have the capacity of paying for practicing certificates for young lawyers, then that person cannot be president. You understand? He will eat your money. You need somebody with capacity, somebody who is generous, somebody who does not have any pain in serving. We have answered Agri-Mambo's question. I'm running for LSK president. But if you want me to run for president of the Republic of Kenya, I'm up to the task. Now, number 2, Alan, we stand for a brave new bar. And the only obstacle for a brave new bar is age limit. As soon as age limit falls, then we'll have a brave new bar. Look, I've come here to serve. How can I serve? By telling you what I will do. It is you who will tell me what to do. I'm your servant. I'm not your ruler. Everything you will tell me, I will do. I don't need to come with a manifesto of 10 points that I should do for you, which I can't do. I'm your servant. I'm your slave. I can only do that which you demand I do. Thank you.
Thank you. The 2 of you now. I expect you to answer the questions asked to you, not a rejoinder to his response to those questions. So, Alan, you can answer the questions now.
Yes, have you raised the issue of the age limit? when we were in council, we asked members what would be the age limit for the President of the Law Society. And we had diverse views. So now we agreed as a council that 10 years, which is the minimum qualification to become a judge, would suffice because that brings the necessary experience. And that's a proposal that was forwarded to Parliament by council. Parliament, in its wisdom, or lack of it, whichever way you want to look at it, raised it to 15 years. That is something beyond us, our control. And we all know that we do not interfere with the legislative role of Parliament. So as it is right now, unless the Act is amended or unless the court rules otherwise, it still stands for 15 years. So we had nothing to do about increasing 10 to 15. It's Parliament that did that. Now to answer my brother Mom, saying that I would always skive press conferences where the government is criticized. First of all, that's a very generic thing. One, press conferences which are called ad hoc, when you're already committed to arbitrations, incidentally, as you heard, I'm a chartered arbitrator, and you're in arbitrations, do you stop a process where you're in court or that simply because you've been told there's a press conference in half an hour, be there? There's something called courtesy. So if the President of the Law Society, as an official spokesman, remember the President is an official spokesman, calls a press conference, am I supposed to be there like a maid of honor and sit there and clap my hands when I'm just inconvenienced half an hour? Of course we can. But I've attended press conferences where immediately after council we've had a meeting, and then we have a press conference with the members sitting there. I've attended several, and you've still been there. But it's not right to say that you're afraid of criticizing the government. Wasn't I the first to criticize the government on this issue of the banning of media houses and issued a press statement? I believe in the rule of law, and we will live by the tenets of the rule of law. And that's what I stand for. And that's why I've taken the government in so many instances where we have fought duplex charge sheets, where we have fought injustices. And that's, I can't stand injustice, I'm allergic to it.
On the issue of the age limit, I have read my learned friend's judgment in draft, and I concur in fully. I have nothing useful to add. On the issue of why when after losing elections, I was not there. It is not true that I was not there. You know, the fact that I didn't attend 1 or 2 AGMs does not mean that I was not there. I have been writing articles about the independence of the judiciary or the police reforms, unless my brother Alan here does not read them. I have been attending CLEs, giving speeches, but you know, the first year, and I explained this in Mombasa, I had a lot of problems. Immediately, my sister died, immediately the elections were over in March, followed by another sister. My mother got an accident, and then my father was admitted in hospital. I stayed with my father for that period for 2 months. And on the day that he died, I was supposed to address the young lawyers in Dar es Salaam. I got a ticket and went to Dar es Salaam, delivered a paper, and came back and organized for his burial. So it was not true that I disappeared. But Alan says that he has been checking the council. What has he been doing? Alan has been moving from CLE to CLE, selling his book. How do you check? Is that a way of checking the council? And then the other thing that Alan has been doing, he brought a motion.
We were warned about to join.
I think it's not right for them to be attacked when that question is what
we were warned about to join. Answer the questions you asked.
It is not true. It is, so it is, yeah. No. I am a member of the Kisumu WhatsApp group. Let me produce evidence that that is all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. I want to believe we are coming to the end of this session, but maybe closing remarks. Mr. Hagan. 3 minutes.
We stand at a very perilous point in the history of Kenya, where constitutionalism has been jettisoned out and the ship is traveling without order. The only person who has come out and spoken fearlessly for the last 2 years is yours truly, Nelson Harvey. I have not seen any of these retired generals, and you can see they are constabularies. They don't have the capacity of carrying a rifle. They don't have the stamina of firing a cannon. You need a president who will speak boldly, who will come to Eldoret if there is a problem here. who will go and confront the authorities when they are interfering and infringing on the fundamental human rights and freedoms. I will be there for you. It does not matter where you will be, it does not matter your age, it does not matter your ethnicity, it does not matter your political affiliation. You need a brave new power. You need age limit to fall. You need a rejuvenated law society. That can only come from the only remaining general amongst the soldiers. Asanteni sana. Munipatie kura.
Thank you. Mr. Allen?
It is high time we thought about ourselves. This law society has lost focus. The society, incidentally, is not at war where you need generals. The society is at war for lack of putting bread and butter issues at the forefront. When you look at section 4, 95% from A to N of the aspirations there relate to practice, welfare, and our standards. That has taken a backseat. It is my honest belief and aspiration that for once, let us be selfish about our needs. We cannot talk about welfare when we have no money in our pockets. That's the truth. We cannot practice when magistrates come up with delays of 3 years delivering a simple judgment or transfer of a case from one division to another. That must stop. And that is why I even come up with a template for reporting such errant judicial officers who keep us hostage, who clients come over and say, there's no point of going to Wakil, let's go to Okiom Tata. It's because we're too scared to take on injustice ourselves. We must transform the society, we must think about ourselves, we must think about our clients in Kenya. The socio-economic rights of Kenyans are at peril. We need to transform the society professionally. Remember, the LSK is a professional body. Don't lose sight of that. And that is why I stand here to transform that in the lines of section 4 and ensure that practice, young lawyers, old lawyers, we're all treated equally. Let's not have this divide between young and old, yet we suffer. The old lawyers are saying, what about my pension? You people have forgotten us. The young lawyers are saying, you guys are dominating everything. But why are we creating the division amongst ourselves? Why not work together? Sit down, roll up our sleeves, and say, enough whining. Let's work together. Bring the solutions to the table. Engage the government positively, criticize it positively. But we're not here as an opposition party. We are politicians to do that. Every time we engage in politics over the years, we are the losers. Right now you go to social media, we insult each other. Why? Where has respect gone to? Let's respect one another. Let's listen to one another. That's the only way we will regain trust and respect in the society. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Agreed.
I have always stood for the Section 4 of the Law Society Act, and I don't think that it is something that has been put there by mistake. The Law Society needs to gain its credibility in the society. Judging from my experience, I know that where we are now, you need a president. Our country is deeply divided. The lawyers are deeply divided. You need a president with experience that is going to bring us together. Because apart from where we come from, our political affiliations, our philosophies, first and foremost, we are lawyers of the High Court of the Republic of Kenya. There are things like welfare, about medical cover that we need to deal with. There are issues like young lawyers' complaint about terms and conditions of service that we need to deal with. There are issues like the independence of the judiciary. That we need to stand for, and that is not politics. Kenya has one of the best judiciaries in the whole of Africa. If we allow this judiciary to be broken down, if we allow it to be, to be fundamentally interfered with, we are going to have a judiciary that is not be able to protect our rights. Judiciary is the defender of our rights, and as a law society of Kenya, we must not stand when we see judges being abused, magistrates being abused in public. We need to stand for the rule of law. And finally, the law society, as has been rightly observed, the issues like companies are going. issues of areas like land areas are going. We need to be able to recover those traditional areas that lawyers used to have. And apart from that, there is a lot of foreign work that now is being given to lawyers in London, in Frankfurt, in US, because they are saying our lawyers do not have the expertise. I have myself taken an initiative and entered into an agreement with African Development Bank, and that memorandum was signed in Entebbe last year. I want to do the same thing for the Law Society of Kenya, so that the work in the extractive industry, the work in the investment work, and the huge infrastructural construction work, that fee must remain with our lawyers here. And that is what I intend to do, ladies and gentlemen. On the 22nd of February, and I have talked to my son, Nelson Nabi, if the limit must not fall, he knows the person who shares his philosophy. So on the 22nd of February, please vote for James Aggrey Mwambu as the President of the Law Society of Kenya. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aggrey Mwambu. Thank you, Alan Gishui. Thank you, Harvey and I, for honoring this call.